I'm Roy Potter, a former U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel. Welcome to the Potter Expositor. Hi ladies and gentlemen, this is Roy Potter of the Potter Expositor here at YouTube on Roy Potter QA, and I thought I would open up this video with this image. Yes, I'm out and about doing some work, but I wanted to take some time off to show you this and to bring up why it's so important that all of these things are happening that are an attempt, and it's still an attempt, we're working at it, to bring back the principles of the Constitutional Republic of the United States of America. I'm here at what's called the Freedom Shrine, and these are all of our founding documents here and more. And I want to start down here because this is so important. You know, some people say these are just pieces of paper, but in fact, they enshrine the principles that have been honored and sanctified, fought and bled and died for throughout the ages. This is the Declaration of Independence. I think you can see that there. And of course, this is the Constitution of the United States, and the all-important first part of the government. We the people constructed the federal government, not the other way around. The principle of the people rule, not despots. Of course, you know, Mel Gibson in Patriot, he said, I'd rather be governed by one tyrant 2,000 miles away than 2,000 tyrants 1 mile away. But still the principle that government is not God, as Donald Trump, our president, so stated. So here I am, and you'll notice I'm wearing a cap commemorating the U.S. Army. I'll come a little closer so you can see it. And I don't normally do this because, as you all should know, I consider the military to be a necessary evil, not something that should be worshipped or glorified, but appreciated when it's needed. And of course, our military has been used for some horrible things in the last 60 years or so, maybe longer than that, but hopefully we can get it back to the right place. But seeing as how today is December 7th and it's Pearl Harbor Day, again, not to glorify what happened or even to make excuses or to try to say that we should be willing to fight again for anything, anywhere other than ourselves, our self-defense. I think it's important to make this distinction and to give it the appreciation and yet the caution that it deserves. So, I'm also not wearing sunglasses, so it's a little bright out here. I hope you'll pardon me for that. This is probably going to be a fairly long video, but I wanted to start it off the way that I have because this is really what we're all about. I think I'll start off by talking about an interview that Matt Bracken had today, and something that he's said all along. He's, of course, the former Navy SEAL whose website is Enemies Foreign and Domestic. And then there's the former Navy SEAL Craig Sawyer, who was out there fighting the pedophiles and standing up also for the Constitutional Republic of the United States. His organization that he's working with, that I show you all the time, like at the beginning of this video, Vets for Child Rescue. And then there's myself, and there's many others. There are many others. And we've all basically wanted to hold the government accountable to the constitutional principles that are supposed to bind the government, not individuals, not the people. And of course, that's all been turned around for various reasons, and I won't go into all those, but all of them have been to subvert the original idea of liberty and to redefine it or just take it away altogether. As you've often heard me say, it's not freedom we want, it's freedom with responsibility. And who defines the responsibility? In this case, the Constitution. Those are the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, known as the Bill of Rights. Liberty is freedom, but with responsibility. In other words, the golden rule is basically what it comes down to. Anything more or less than this, the scriptures say, is evil, right? Which brings up the scriptures too. Has anybody ever wondered why our form of government, you could say it's from the Romans or the Greeks or whatever, but in reality, when you look at it, why do we have the three branches of government outside of we the people? Because the people are the final arbiters. But we developed, our forefathers, and I will say that, I don't care if it's politically incorrect or not, it's the truth. They founded a government using three basic independent branches of government, but all one government. Does that sound familiar to anybody out there in Christendom? Well, I have a different concept of the Trinity, but that's kind of where I'm going with this. Three branches of government, but all one. Three parts of God: Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Isn't that interesting? A balance. But of course, in our sphere of life, things get corrupted, as indeed ours has. And a lot of that has to do with that first few words in the Constitution, we the people. We hired the federal government and other governments, of course, to take care of our business. But unfortunately, we the people, the real boss, we went off on vacation and we didn't pay attention to what the employees were doing. And they've stolen from us, pilfered us, shoplifted. I could go on, but I think you get my point. So we the people need to awaken. I wasn't going to go here right now because I was going to talk about Craig Sawyer and Matt Bracken first, but let me go here real quick because I think it's important. And you'll pardon me, I got to look at my notes because I want to make sure I give this person the due respect for what they said. And I should have, since I'm changing order here and what I was going to do, this will take me a second. Okay. On Twitter, there's a poster by the name of, well, she goes by Trump's Blonde Angie. You listening to me? Trump's Blonde Angie? Of course, this will be up on Twitter too. She goes by the handle or by the name at Trump's Blonde. And she put up a post today where she defined what an apocalypse is. Now, the typical Christian or even Islamic idea of an apocalypse is utter annihilation and destruction. That's kind of what it's evolved into. But in fact, she pointed out something very important. And that is that apocalypse in the Greek really means like an awakening. It means the destruction of the wicked, but by shining the light on them, by revealing them, by unveiling who and what they really are. It's not the total destruction of God's creation. Quite the opposite. It's the removal of those who would seek the destruction of this creation. So it's about those who are seeking the truth. An apocalypse is an unveiling, a seeking of the truth, an awakening. Disclosure is another word that I've heard. And haven't I said for a long time now that that's really what this is all about? We can argue a little bit about the way people view the rapture and all these other things. But in reality, it's an awakening to the truth. And there are a lot of things that we need to be awakened to as far as the truth is concerned. But all of that is happening right now. As I put out the other day, last night, and a few other times, we're in the middle of this storm right now. And at this point, we're just getting the first waves and the surges come in. And it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. But we can see it happening. So getting back to Matt Bracken and Craig Sawyer and myself. Matt Bracken said today, all these people that are talking about removing Trump forcefully, illegally, unconstitutionally, which is really taking away the rights and the individual liberties and the voters of this country who want the return of the constitutional republic of the United States and do away with all of this tyrannical nonsense that we've been dealing with for so many years, not just during the Obama time, but even prior to that. And what Matt Bracken said was, if they try to take that away from us, especially if they try to assassinate Trump, which everybody should know they've been talking about. They've tried all these different things. Right now they're on the 25th Amendment and that he has Alzheimer's. He gave a talk the other day when he was signing the information about giving the land back to the states, which is also a constitutional thing. A lot of people argue, oh, we need these monuments, public lands, and all that. The Constitution says that the states get to choose what the federal government gets and what it doesn't. And it's very clear in the Constitution as to what land the federal government can take care of. But the point is that Trump was signing this thing, and he'd been talking for some time, and he didn't have any water like I don't now. A little bit of dry mouth, and so, he stumbled a little, like I just did right there, on a couple of words. And they wanted to rip him apart over it, the media did, and the left. So my stumbling here is because I haven't had any water today. I wanted to make a point of that, and I think you can tell that it's a little difficult to talk when you have a dry mouth. Always finding fault. Who does that remind you of? Somebody that's always finding fault, accusing you falsely. Right? Bearing false witness. The accuser. We know him as Satan, the devil. A Latin word of Lucifer, of course, as you know, I've told you that's not his real name. I'm not even going to give him the respect here to say his real name, although I've talked about it before. So, again, Matt Bracken, Craig Sawyer, and I have said, you do this to us, you do this to the American people, and you go after Trump and his family and you harm them. And we have your names, and there are lots of lampposts around the country. Lots of them. I heard Alex Jones say there wouldn't be enough lampposts. Right? Well, I don't know about that. But we have been taking names. We have. And if you subvert the Constitution of the United States, you become an enemy, domestic or otherwise. And people like Craig Sawyer, Matt Bracken, and even myself, we've taken an oath to that principle that I showed you over here. Those principles. They may be on paper or parchment, but that's what really resides or should reside in the hearts of the people, in the hearts of the men and women. And that you try to destroy, you try to kill, and you become an enemy. Okay, enough philosophizing, I guess, for now. I think you get my point. I wanted to bring up a few things that have happened. Of course, I already mentioned Trump signing the executive order, the law stopping the land grab by the feds at least in Utah at this point, and it'll traverse elsewhere, I'm sure. Something that the Bundys and the Hammonds and many other ranchers, like down on the Red River in Texas, but the Bundys in Nevada and the Hammonds up there in Oregon and Malheur understood, and yet their redress, their cries for redress of grievance were not heard by the corrupt Obama administration and before. And now we know, of course, that corrupt elements in the government, like the FBI and the Department of Justice and the EPA and the BLM, the Bureau of Land Management, were in on this whole land grab situation to steal from the American people and not even share in the riches of those land grabs, but to do it for themselves, like Hillary Clinton and the Clinton Foundation, and Harry Reid and his son with the Chinese investment down there in Nevada. And yet, because Americans stood up and said no, they're declared the criminals, not the people that were actually conspiring to do this horrible thing to us. So again, President Trump signed that as a warning. First of all, of course, to take the land and put it back to where it belongs. Well, we'll keep some of these monuments and things, but the idea is that the federal government doesn't need to hold on to 90% or 95% or whatever of the land in the West, or anywhere else for that matter. They don't. No act of Congress that violates the Constitution is valid. I think most of you know that. So that's the first thing I wanted to bring up, is that Trump had the courage to do that, as he did by taking us out of TPP, going after ISIS, and of course going after the CIA and the deep state, which is really what this war on drugs is. A lot of people heard him talking about that, and Sessions got off on this other stuff, but the fact of the matter is Trump is fighting the CIA and the deep state, who have been running the drugs, running the weapons, running the human trafficking, running the pedophilia. And of course, as I've said, North Korea is a part of that. So that's the first thing I wanted to bring up. Sorry about my little notes here, but I figured this would be the best way to do it. Okay, and now we know also a number of other things. The FBI and the DOJ have Obama leftovers, leftists, communists in there, people that want to subvert the Constitution, engage in sedition, even treason. And all of that's coming out now. We now know that Strzok, whatever his name is, had something to do with the Russian dossier, which was then used to get a FISA warrant. All of this illegal and all based on lies and subterfuge. What's that again? Bearing false witness. Thinking that they were above the law. The FBI, Comey, Mueller, etc., Clinton, Holder, Lynch, Obama, etc. And now we also find out that this guy, this Strzok, Styrox, whatever the heck his name is, I still don't know what it is. He interviewed Flynn. Didn't tell him that it was an interview that could get him in trouble, but Flynn knew that and acted accordingly and set these guys up for a fall. And they took it hook, line, and sinker because they're arrogant, narcissistic, corrupt, evil, wicked people, if they're people at all. So that's going to continue to come out. And we had Senator Grassley go over that quite a bit in his speech. And then, of course, there's Senator Jim Jordan, who talked about the dossier and the FISA warrant and how that impacts on all of this that's happening right now and how evil and corrupt that is. It's really a circular reasoning. You create a crime out of thin air, and then you tax somebody with it, and that's essentially what they did. They made it up, and it didn't exist in the first place. Okay, moving on, and I know this is a long one, but that's a nice day, except for the chemtrails that have been sprayed and are spreading around, but I won't show you those today, but they're there, trust me. It's pretty disgusting. Clear skies yesterday, and now they have to spray the last 24 hours, and it's everywhere. That's why it's kind of hazy out here today. It's not pollution. There was an ex-FBI agent by the name of Clint Watts, and this is why I say we have some problems. We have a duly elected, constitutionally elected president of the United States, who is going against the deep state and trying to reverse all of the evil things that have been going on for the last how many years to subvert our constitutional republic and the liberty of the American people. That's what President Trump is about, right? Well, this FBI agent, ex-FBI agent Clint Watts, this was on CNN, I believe, he said that, believe this, okay? He said this, quote, "Trump is an enemy of the state," unquote. You notice how these people that are drunk on power, like Phil Mudd of the CIA, said he wanted to kill Trump, that the CIA, the government, would kill Trump, or Brennan and Clapper, right? CIA and DNI, right? Saying that Trump would be removed. Jeb Bush saying that he'd be removed by December. Who really is the enemy of the state? These people that think that they are above the law, that they are above the Constitution, which is the chain that was put on them and those in power to keep them from exercising this power in an evil and wicked way, in a corrupt way. Trump's not doing that. Trump's not using this power in an evil and wicked way. He's trying to restore this back to the people, just like he said in all of his campaign addresses and since then. Not taking pay, you know, his pay as president, he gives away every month to different organizations, be they rather, you know, federal groups or even private. I'm not sure of all that he's given away yet. It's really not my business. It's his. Point is he's not taking the money. And he's put his family out there, his own life and that of his family, in danger. In other words, he's been willing, as the scriptures say, no greater love hath a man than this, to lay down his life for his fellow man. And it doesn't necessarily mean that he has to die, although they might try to exact that out of him. But it's that he gave up his life that he had with his family that was wonderful. He had achieved so much, he could have gone away and just enjoyed the rest of his life, but he put himself out here for us. That's Christ-like. That's Christ-like. All right. Another question. I want to know where the high powers are. Grassley kind of started down this road, and I think he's continuing. I want to know where President Trump's support in the Congress and the Senate are. Where are you? Where are you people? Why are you cowering off on the side? I'll tell you, I just said it. You're either cowards or you're complicit in trying to overthrow this president and the constitutional republic. You're trying to keep the power from returning to the people, where that document over there said it resides, we the people. Not in your bureaucracies, not in yourselves, not in the aggrandizements and the riches that you obtain by getting into office and doing all the things that you say are illegal if we do them. That's how you've enriched yourselves. You've made yourselves a privileged class. It's not supposed to exist here. You're supposed to be under the same laws as the rest of the country, including healthcare laws, if those pass, which I think are a problem, but regardless, you get my point. Insider trading. Gee, we can't do it, but you can. You even exempted yourself with a law there in Congress, right? You say that we can't take video of public officials doing, like police out there doing their work, right? You've made those arguments, and yet you spy on us. Everybody laughed when we were saying it was through even our utility companies and our washing machines and dishwashers, and now we find out that in fact is the case with the smart grid. Even General Petraeus, when he was in the CIA, said that. So you do what you accuse others of doing. You act illegally. You don't even get warrants based upon probable cause. Or if you try to do that, you lie, like Strzok did with the information on the Russian dossier. Some good news. H.R. 38, reciprocity of carrying concealed weapons, passed the House. Again, this was first talked about by President Trump. If we can drive from one state to another, which is a privilege, as he said, Why is it that they restrict our right to self-defense from state to state? That doesn't make any sense. So H.R. 38 passed the House. Well, that's running into some problems in the Senate. Of course, they always want to control the people. They never control the real problems. Have you ever wondered why, with all this surveillance, things like the shooting in Las Vegas happened? Or the shooting at the church? Or any number of other incidents? Poor Pamela Geller, however you feel about her, the FBI assisted those Islamic terrorists to actually carry out the attack. Remember that? That's been known for some time now. It's being talked about more. So we have a right to protect ourselves against these attacks. Can't do it if you even have the FBI out there helping the terrorists to accomplish their mission of killing people. So anyway, I guess H.R. 4477 is trying to impose a 60-day waiting period, which could be a problem, but we'll see how that turns out. Point is Trump's fulfilling his promises. I've already talked about Strzok, whatever his name is. Perfect example, along with Comey and Mueller, if Mueller hasn't agreed to help Donald Trump. I don't know what, as I've said, if he's in the gray area or not. But whatever, so much corruption in the DOJ and the FBI. And we're seeing that it's unfolding now. The apocalypse is here, the revealing, the unfolding, right? The disclosure, the awakening. That which is hidden shall be revealed. That's what apocalypse means, and it's happening. I think it's a miracle. You know, a lot of Christians, nothing against Christians, but you're looking up in the sky, you know, waiting for this thing to happen, and it's happening right in front of your eyes. It's happening in the real world. All of those things in the scriptures are euphemisms. They're stories to help people to remember. It's happening right now, ladies and gentlemen. It's happening. The White House, President Trump has had a private security force actually in place for some time. I've talked about that from a couple of times. And it's how he's been countering a lot of the things that the deep state has been doing. And now we're finding out more about that. And I'm not saying that's necessarily a good thing. And I talked to Tracy Beans and Scott Anthony about it. Didn't talk to him about it. Tweeted them, texted them. The last thing I feel like we need is another clandestine intelligence service. But at this point, considering how corrupt all of the intelligence community is, it was about the only way to combat it. I just wish it had been done. And Trump has kind of gone there with the NSA and Admiral Rogers. But at any rate, the point is that there has been this group out there investigating all of this outside the purview, outside the eyes of the corrupt officials in the FBI, the CIA, etc. And that information is now coming out, and it'll come out even more. So Trump has needed this insider intelligence group to help him out. And we're thankful for that. Let's just not forget that we need to get back to the constitutional republic principles when this war is over with. And it is a war, ladies and gentlemen. It is absolutely a war. And we pray that it doesn't get into a shooting fight, even though I've got some information it already has in some respects. Certainly North Korea, which is a CIA front, could turn into a real bad situation, and that would be the CIA warring against President Trump and the rebirth of our constitutional republic. Mueller apparently opened an investigation. It was reported into the Deutsche Bank about Trump. I kind of laughed when I saw that, because that's where the Clinton Foundation, the Clinton Global Initiative is, rather. Isn't that interesting? I think some of that information is coming out. But Esther's involved in that too. And now, of course, we've got Dianne Feinstein and everybody saying, well, Russian collusion, we're shifting from that to obstruction by Trump. Well, that's not a thing that he can be indicted for. He's the President of the United States. He can say anything he wants. Yeah, they could take it to the Congress, to the House of Representatives, and draw up articles of impeachment and then try him in the Senate, or again use the 25th Amendment. But like I said, ladies and gentlemen. You've got people like Matt Bracken, Craig Sawyer, and all of the people in the government that are waking up now and now have the courage to come forward. So let's see what Soros and the Rothschilds and the Saudis are kind of out of it now, as you know, if you've been watching the Q. And the Rothschilds are on their way out. Soros is still in there dabbling, but it's about time for the Delta Force to swoop in on him. And that could happen any day. Georgie, any day. All right. I think I've probably worn everybody out here. I think I've said everything I wanted. Let's take a look here and see. Don't you like my note? You know, I think I've been getting like 2 to 3 hours sleep a night, if that, because of all that's going on. And there are people out there that are dedicated to standing up and making this restoration of the Constitutional Republic of the United States happen. I remember an ecclesiastical leader many years ago. I'll just tell you who he was. Most of you know I was Mormon at one time. Got kicked out of that like I get kicked out of a lot of things. I've been a lot of religions. I've been, when I was growing up, my mom, well, it's a long story, but I went through a number of denominations and spiritual systems looking around. And, you know, a lot of people say, well, you're flighty or whatever. No, you're searching. It's what's in your heart and why you're doing it. And that was really the whole idea. Continue to search. But there was an apostle of the Mormon Church. He later became president for a short time. His name is Ezra Taft Benson. Now, I don't have a lot. You got to understand, there are things I know about the Mormon Church at this point I don't want to go into here. I'm not pointing any bad fingers at Ezra by any means. He worked under Eisenhower as the Secretary of Agriculture, I believe. Good man as far as I can tell. But there are other problems in the Mormon Church which I'm not going to get into here. But Ezra Taft Benson said something that I thought, you know, even at the time that I saw this, I thought, how could that be? He said that the flag of the United States, the American flag, would fly through the millennium. In other words, through Christ's reign. Now, a lot of people are going to get really upset about that statement. But look at the flag as a symbol of liberty, the gospel, the good news, the perfect law of liberty, as James explained, the Apostle James, the brother of Jesus. The scriptures that say where the Spirit of God is, there is liberty. That's really what it was all about. That's really what this Freedom Shrine is all about. The manifestation of this hope in men's hearts, in the hearts of mankind. No, I'm not going to be politically correct. Those days are gone, at least for me. But there are times when I want to try to be a little more inclusive. All right. So President Trump says we're at one flag, and that's the American flag. We're all one people. We're all Americans here in the United States. And we're not going to force our concept of government on anybody else. Not anymore. We're going to set the example of how to do righteous liberty. We have to clean up things first. This war is real, both internally and externally, and it's been done by people who misused the goodness that came forth out of the revolution of 1776. So, ladies and gentlemen, I've got to get back to work now. I'll upload this. It'll take me a little while to edit it. I have to have time so I can get back out on the road. But I wanted to leave these thoughts with you today. And thanks to all of the people out there that have been working so hard. And I can't name them all. You know, I've named a few. Tracy Beans, Scott Anthony, Imperator Rex, Thomas Wichter, BP Earthwatch. These are, you know, YouTube channels, some of them. Matt Bracken, Craig Sawyer, Jordan Sather of Destroying the Illusion, Sean Hannity, Steve Bannon, the Trump family, Ron Paul, End Times Reporting, Jake Morphonios, Shepard Ambulis of IntelliHub, and yes, even Alex Jones and the crew of InfoWars. Thank you to all of you. God bless you. God bless President Trump. And God bless the United States of America. While you're looking at that beautiful flag, I want to read a couple of things to you. The first is parts of the Declaration of Independence. It says, quote, "In Congress, July 4th, 1776, the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America." I'd like to skip down to this part. "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed." We don't worship God if we worship government. And as President Trump said, we do not worship government. We worship God. End to end, I would like to read just the first few sentences of the Constitution of the United States of America. "We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America." I wanted to read that. Do you see? It's about the liberty of the people, not the power of the government. The perfect law of liberty is coming back, ladies and gentlemen, in practice. It's awakening in our hearts and in our minds. We're seeing the truth, the apocalypse, the awakening. It's all happening. Those who have eyes to see and ears to hear. And it's our privilege to watch this happen. Praise God, the Creator of all things. And as you do your searching, all things will be revealed to you.